Bucknuts, welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Bucknuts contributor Brandon Castel. Brandon, Ohio State's first two deep of the season was released yesterday. I don't think there was any major surprises, but there were some interesting things for sure. We'll go offense, then defense. What did you find most interesting on the two deep on the offensive side of the ball, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing is that there weren't any major surprises, on the offensive side of the ball that, kind of was what we thought it was going into, week one of the football season. I guess the one maybe big surprise was, listing out the Z receiver and having, Terry McLaurin as the number one guy in an or spot with James Clark. Again, not that surprising. We've seen both of those guys in the mix. I would say maybe just the amount of receivers that they listed and looks like they expect to use this year. I think there were about 8 guys on the list, and that's not including Curtis Samuel and Dontre Wilson, who are obviously going to be used in more of a running back, getting the ball in their hands out of the backfield and out of that H-back spot. But, I think really looking at, you've got obviously the guys we expected to be in the mix. So Noah Brown, Corey Smith, Paris Campbell, those 3 guys to me were kind of the 3 no doubt guys. And then, Austin Mack was another guy we obviously expected to see, in the mix. And then with the departure of, Torrance Gibson for the fall, I was interested to see kind of who would slide into those other spots. So seeing, Johnny Dixon on the list, and then Benjamin Victor, obviously I think is the guy who benefited in terms of getting into the two deep because of that. Now, one name that's not on the list I think I was a little surprised was KJ Hill. Again, a lot of guys on this list. This is going to be fluid throughout the season, but he was a guy that we kept hearing was in the mix. We kept hearing was, part of that action. So, again, I don't think this means we won't see him, but interesting to see the guys who were in the mix at that receiver spot.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if they just had listed 2 receiver spots, not the H, but just 2 regular receiver spots, and they just listed 2 players at each spot. So the starter and the backups, you have 4 players on the two deep that are wide receivers. Instead, there are 3 different wide receiver spots and a total of 8 wide receivers because the 2 of the spots they used ORs, either for starters or backups. So 8 total wide receivers make the two deep, and KJ Hill's not one of them. I mean, this is not a good sign for him at all. He's now a redshirt freshman. He was even expected maybe to play as a true freshman last year. That didn't happen. This is not a good sign. Maybe it's an oversight. Maybe there's nothing to it, but I just, looking at it, I can't sugarcoat it. 8 receivers make the two deep, and he's not one of them. That's not good for KJ Hill.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, again, it's the first depth chart of the season, and we haven't seen the team play yet. So it really doesn't, sometimes these depth charts, like you said, sometimes there's oversight, and sometimes there's an intentional, little dig or an intentional little thing to kind of let guys know, hey, you're not exactly where we thought you were, and we need you to get there. It seems pretty easy to me. You got 3 guys listed at the X, you got 3 guys listed at the Z. It seems pretty easy to me they could have put KJ Hill as the 3rd guy behind, Corey Smith and Johnny Dixon, but I'm thinking, it's possible maybe that was just some oversight, but, either way, I do think he'll be in the mix. I think you and I both know that he's got some talent, and, I think he's a guy that Urban has mentioned enough throughout the fall that I do think that he's going to get out there. Maybe not as much as we expected on Saturday, but I would be pretty surprised if he really had fallen behind all of these other guys.
At running back, of course, the bracketing of Curtis Samuel and Mike Weber as the starters there. No surprise. Curtis Samuel is also listed as the starting H. No surprise there. Urban's been saying all along that, he's going to play Curtis Samuel running back along with Mike Weber. He's also going to play Curtis Samuel at the H-back spot. He's called him his number 1 playmaker on offense. Assuming both guys stay healthy, is there any doubt in your mind that Curtis Samuel is going to have a bigger role in this offense than Mike Weber, like when you add it up at the end of the year as far as not just carries, but total yards from scrimmage? Do you think Curtis Samuel is going to be the man on this offense, or do you think there's a chance that even if both of them stay healthy, that Mike Weber could end up being, other than J.T. Barrett, the man on this offense?
I absolutely do think there's a chance that Mike Weber could end up being, quote unquote, the man. And my reason being is, this coaching staff, I think, has shown that they love to feed that feature back, whether it was Carlos Hyde or Zeke Elliott. once they find that guy that they love to get the ball to and they love to go to in crunch situations, that player generally becomes, the focal point of the offense. Now, it certainly helped that they've had two, NFL caliber, two guys who are starting running backs in the NFL, to do that with. I don't know that Mike Weber's on that level, and we'll find out a lot about that this year. So, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions on that. And I do think that Curtis Samuel is their best offensive weapon, and I've been saying for, quite some time that I thought you've got to find a way to get this guy, 15 to 20 touches a game. But I've seen times in the past where the staff has kind of struggled to figure out what to do with that guy, that Braxton Miller guy, or even Curtis Samuel last year, when he was healthy. It just didn't seem like they could figure out any way to get him on the field. Now, a big part of that was Zeke. How many touches are you going to want anyone else to have other than Zeke? So I get that, and I do think that Curtis Samuel will play a big role, but it wouldn't shock me if we got into the season at some point and, the staff fell in love with Mike Weber and really started getting him the ball. But I think Curtis Samuel's explosiveness will keep him top of mind, at least for Urban Meyer.
Let's shift to the defense, Brandon. Anything that stands out to you looking at the two deep defensively, and we can go position by position if you want as far as D-line, linebackers, and secondary, but what stands out to you the most as far as the two deep defensively?
Yeah, a couple of things really jumped out at me on defense. Number one, I think, the bracketing of Sam Hubbard and Jalen Holmes. We've heard recently, I would say over the last 2 to 3 weeks, that Jalen Holmes has come on really strong. I liked what I saw from him when I got a chance to watch practice and just see the way he moves as a big guy. A guy who's up to 274 pounds now. I think I had reported that a while back that I really thought he was going to be a big factor on this defense and a part of that rotation. And we know they're going to rotate guys. And I don't look at that, and maybe you would disagree, I don't look at that as a knock on Sam Hubbard, but more of an indication of just how far Jalen Holmes has come and the fact that they're basically counting on him as a, kind of de facto fifth starter on the defensive line, a guy who's going to play a ton of snaps, probably outside, some snaps inside, and really be that guy that, kind of fills a big void for them with some of the guys they lost last year, being able to move Joey Bosa around inside, having a guy like Adolphus Washington, really being maybe, I guess you could call him kind of the Sam Hubbard of, this year's teams, where Sam was a guy who they used a lot last year, but he wasn't really a starter. I don't know, if that's exactly what they were indicating, but to me that jumped out at me. And then the other thing that really jumped out at me was as you look at the depth on the defensive line, in terms of the two deep, after those first four guys, it's all freshmen. So, obviously, Draymond Jones is a redshirt freshman, but you look at the other guys on that list in the depth chart, Nick Bosa, Jonathan Cooper, Hamilton, Rashad Berry. I mean, those guys are all, Hamilton, again, another redshirt freshman, but those guys are all freshmen. Or at least first-year guys who haven't seen the field yet. So to me, that's good, because they've got a lot of young talent on the defensive line, and I know Urban has said a lot of good things about Hamilton and Draymond Jones inside, and, we know what their expectations are for Nick Bosa, but just a little interesting that when you look at the depth on their D-line, a lot of really young kids in that two deep.
And some fans are surprised that Cam Burrows was not on the two deep. He's a fourth-year junior. 2 years ago on the national championship team, he started the opener against Navy over Von Bell. I think they're just sending a message to Von Bell. I know they're just sending a message to Von Bell that he needed to make sure he took practice seriously. I think they always thought Von Bell was better than Cam Burrows. The point of the matter is Cam Burrows started over Von Bell the season opener 2 years ago. Now he's not even on the two deep. Gets beat out by true freshman Jordan Fuller, and I thought Jordan Fuller was going to be on the two deep because they kept saying he's going to play, but I thought it might be an or situation. I thought they'd at least throw Cam Burrows a bone, have him on the two deep. So I keep hearing this is going to be Cam Burrows' last year at Ohio State, either if he's going to transfer or maybe just give up football. I was mildly surprised he wasn't on the two deep. Your thoughts on Cam Burrows?
Yeah, I am a little surprised. It is interesting to see Jordan Fuller jump into the mix at safety. I think that they really do need kind of a young stud to emerge at that safety spot. Obviously, Malik Hooker is a guy who's everyone's counting on to kind of become that big play guy on the back end of the secondary. But I think the expectations were high, obviously, for Jordan Fuller coming in. They moved him over from corner to safety. With his size and athleticism, it's not surprising that he's starting to put some people in his dust. One thing that I look at this depth chart, I don't see that nickel back spot, and maybe the reason is because they're going to have either Lattimore or Denzel Ward inside, or obviously Eric Smith's a guy who I think would fit perfectly in that spot as well, and he's in the 2 deep. But in sometimes they've kind of called that out, who that nickel guy is going to be. So again, kind of, is that an oversight? Could Cam Burrows kind of fit into that nickel spot and maybe get some reps there? Wouldn't surprise me. But obviously, if a guy's name isn't on the list at all, whether it's KJ Hill or, whether it's Cam Burrows, I don't think that's a great sign. I don't think that's a great indication that they're top of mind for, the guys who are making the decisions on this football team. But I don't think it completely eliminates them either. So I'll be interested to see. They've got some options, though. If you look at what they've got with Denzel Ward and Damon Arnett, both of those guys kind of in the mix for that starting spot. And, so I could see them going to more of the traditional 3-corner look. We've seen it a little bit in the past, but, I think they like both of those guys and want to see a way to get those 2 guys and Eric Smith on the field. So there may not be much opportunity for Cam Burrows.
Great insights, as always, from Bucknuts contributor Brandon Castel. Thank you, BCast, and thank you to the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the league.